you all have kind of led into the next question that we received from the chat.
Okay.
This person indicated that they've always voted the day of the election and in person, and they've never had a problem. However, many people are now advocating for voting early, or absentee ballots or mail-in ballots. So what is your advice on that? Do you encourage people to take part in those initiatives for the early voting?
Well, I do. I think
Yeah.
that pretty much every Secretary of State, despite the rhetoric that we hear spouting out there about absentee voting or other types of voting, that all those voting are safe ways in which to cast your vote. But there are some cautionary measures that we need to make sure that people remember. If you're going to vote by mail, I don't care if we call it absentee or however you want to call it, it all ends up being the same thing. Make sure you follow the steps, and you got to make sure, when you go to the polling place, I know in Alabama you have to put a copy of your ID in there. If it says ID copy, make sure you put one in there. One of the biggest things that's key is, and I asked this, one of the members is, I'm also a part of the illustrious Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and one of the sorority members is the circuit clerk, and she pointed out one of the things that you want to make sure is that your signature matches what is on your ID. Okay,
Yes.
that's key. So if your signature is John A. Smith, you need to sign John A. Smith,
Yeah.
because those are the signatures that they're comparing. They're not comparing some obscure signature that they've never seen. They're not going back in the files. They're just looking at what you sent. So just be consistent. Also, make sure that whatever reason in Alabama, you have to set forth the reason why you can't show up that day on the poll. They've got a universal COVID thing this year, but whatever you marked as your reason, okay, when you fill out your ballot, you got to mark it again. Make sure that matches. If you said I can't vote because I'm going to be out of the country, you still need to be out of the country. You don't need to all of a sudden say, oh, well, maybe I'm going to be sick. No, you need to be consistent. Know what you said. One of the other biggest thing is that if you're going to vote absentee or mail-in, make sure your affidavit. All these places are affidavits. Why? Because they want to make sure you are saying that who you are. The person is signing, saying that you signed the paper. So some places require 2 signatures. Some of them require you have it notarized. So it doesn't matter who you get the 2 signatures, but have the 2 signatures. Don't send it in without the 2 signatures. How much does it take for it to get there? Depending on how thick your ballot is, it may take 5 stamps, not 2. So you need to make sure you know all of those things. So that goes back to our whole concept we've been talking about tonight, is plan your vote. If you're going to plan to vote absentee, know what it's going to take for you to vote absentee. How many stamps do I need? All of those things. Don't forget that a lot of states like Alabama this year got constitutional amendments on their ballots. Take time to vote on those. If you're going to go to the polls, read them before you go, so you can, be quickly, and you won't spend all day in there. So, and after you cast that vote, you follow all those steps. You can track your absentee ballots. So you're wondering, well, okay, I voted absentee, I did all those things, I dropped it in the drop box, or I put it in the mail. How do I know if the Secretary of State's office got it? Well, in the United States, 45 states, including the District of Columbia, have where you can track your vote just like you track a package. Every vote, every absentee ballot is given a unique identifier. So you can track it. So you know what you did. I suggest you take a picture of your ballot before you drop it in the mail.
Yeah.
So now
Yes.
you know what your number is. Your
Yes.
number is on that ballot. How do I track it? Every state except, here we go, let's do the roll call of the states that don't have it. Connecticut, Mississippi, Missouri, Texas, and Illinois. That means if you live in all the other 45 states, you can track your ballot. You can track your absentee ballot. All you do is go to your Secretary of State website, Click on there, track my ballot. There you go. Plug in your number, kind of like you would search your UPS or your Amazon tracking label, and track it. And you can track and find out what it is. So you can track your ballot. You can go out there and it'll tell you ballot received. Okay? So, there are safety measures that pretty much every Secretary of State has gone to make sure that you know that you can vote safely and that the absentee or mail-in ballots are available, and you should utilize them if it's definitely is a very viable way for you to vote.
Anything to add, Stacy or Kendra?
Everything that Yvonne said.
Absolutely, I concur. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point about making sure you track your ballot. If you are going to vote early and you're going to send it in, track it, take a picture of it, and make sure that you know that it was received and that you've been counted. So that's definitely a good tip for making folks feel a little bit more comfortable about voting early through these measures and these means that we've discussed. So now I want to get to a topic of what happens on election night. Are we going to know the winner of the election when we go to bed, Stacy?
I don't know. Lani, I've been toiling that question around in my head for 2 days ever since you sent the questions. I hate to say it, I don't think so. I don't think we'll know election night. Others may disagree.
Well, let's have a dialogue. Let's have a discussion. Lay out
I don't disagree at all. I don't disagree.
We want people to have some expectations.
Listen, I think it's okay that we don't know, because I think, again, it's a season of voting, and I think the key here is understanding that what was happening is they said already this morning on the news, 2 million people have already voted. 2 million. 2 million people have already voted. That is 10 times the number that voted in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And every state counts their absentee or mail-in ballots differently.
Yeah.
Some states, like Alabama, don't count theirs until the day of. They can't even open them. I think, and they can open them and have them ready, but they can't do nothing else with them, until that day. They've gotten extra machines ready. They've hired extra people to come in to help with the process, but we're still not going to know. Okay,
yeah.
They can't start counting until 12 noon on election day. So imagine if they're getting thousands of ballots in, but that don't mean that they won't be counted. So I think that we've been so used to everybody going to the polls and voting that day. So now you get the instant vote. So many of us are voting early. So knowing that, and did you know, and I found out something as I've been getting prepared for this and in this all enthralled voting season, becoming more knowledgeable myself, is that usually the final vote is never confirmed until that Friday after the election day. So we've always assumed, notice they always say the projected winner. Notice they always say the projected winner, because they still got to count absentee ballots. It's just this year they got a lot of absentee ballots they got to count. So counting absentee ballots after the day of the election is not unusual. They've always done it that way. And they don't certify the vote until that Friday after the voting day. This is nothing new. We just never knew about it because everybody usually vote on that day. So I say, don't worry about it. Just wait until, what they say is not good until the fat lady sings or whatever. I don't know. Hey,
Yvonne,
we're gonna wait it out.
I don't know, Yvonne.
Expectations here. We're giving people a flavor of what they should look for and expect on election night.
They should have patience. They should have patience. They should know.
My nerves, Yvonne. My nerves.
I am encouraged that you got 200. You got that many people 2 million people have already voted. Come on now. So you think about it. If that many people have already voted, I mean, and a whole lot gonna show up on the day of just because we don't trust the mail. Okay. Some of us gonna be willing to stand in line because we don't trust the mail. So I know the vote is gonna be so overwhelming that we're gonna be able to decide that night, but if we don't get scared. Don't let people tell you otherwise, know that every vote has not been counted at that time. You
Yeah.
know,
I'm gonna pull Kendra into the conversation really quickly. I think you're right, Yvonne. Unless the vote is overwhelmingly the other candidate, and I have to get used to not saying his name, right? I don't think they're gonna call it that night,
no,
right?
no.
Unless again, if it's overwhelmingly on the blue side, right?
Hey, call
Then
it.
they may call it, right? Then they may call it. But it's going to take time for the absentee ballots to be counted. And then also, listen, we still have someone in office who has said he is prepared to contest the results, right? So I don't think this is going to be something that will be decided that night, even that week, right? It may take a couple of weeks, it may even take months, right? But it's going to be a long process. And I don't know,
Yeah.
my sister Kendra, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you all on that. I think that patience is a virtue, but it is not unforeseeable that the votes will not all be able to come in on that day. Some votes aren't even able to be counted. Some of the ballots aren't even able to be counted until that day. And what Stacy was just saying, I will just say that if there is any type of, contesting, potential contesting of the election, so we all know that
Yeah.
goes to the Supreme Court, right? And that would take time. And so I just don't want folks to preclude that, because I think that there have already been some hints that have been given.
So
You know,
he has said it, sis.
listen.
Okay, we're
And
gonna bring it
so
back now.
I know.
one
All
of the
right.
factors, one of the pillars of a functioning democracy is the smooth transition of power
Yes.
and in elections, right? And for that not to happen in our nation would be
Insane.
tra- like traumatizing, right?
Yes.
For
Yes.
our nation. And so anything that has to do with presidential elections and voting, of course, a strict scrutiny it goes right to the Supreme Court. They have original jurisdiction in that matter. And so that's why you see this quick pace to get
Yes.
the nomination seated, right?
Absolutely.
Because you have 8 justices currently, and so that's why there is a strong push for that to happen. And so just know that it's not unforeseeable that the votes in the election will not be called that night, but also that if there's a challenge, it goes to the Supreme Court. That takes time. So this could be drawn out over some time. So just know that that could happen, and it's actually likely. So
What's the prediction? I predict a few months.
um, it depends on what happens. It depends. It could take a few weeks. It could take a week. It could take a few months. If it goes to the Supreme Court, it's a longer process. But I definitely, I don't want people to count that out, because it is probable that that could happen in the event the election is close, or people that in the last election, one person won the general vote, right?
That's right. That's
And the
right.
other won the electoral college. And so just, a general understanding of civics.
Yes.
And you just know that this could be contentious. It already is, right? But it's going to be interesting. So
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll get to your prayer closets. We'll start there.
That's right.
And
Yes.
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 Listen, I'm not even going down that pessimistic road with Kendra and Stacy. I'm gonna stay on the positive that the vote is gonna be overwhelming by the time they get through with the Friday count. You're gonna know something. We're not even gonna have to go to the Supreme Court. I'm gonna be positive. I
you're gonna
do
be
want
positive.
our president to be I want them to know that I don't think we're going to know a true number on that election day.
Yeah.
But I believe with 2 million votes already being cast, and we ain't even really started voting right now.
We're still in October.
That hey, it's just October.
And
That it's gonna be decided by the end of that week. They might still need to bring some more machines to finish counting and stuff. But I trust and believe that we're gonna be able to decide this without going to the Supreme Court.
Listen, Yvonne, I said a few months so I can get people out to vote. That's the motivator.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Bring it.
Right.
Yes.
Ladies, this has been a lot of fun. I have thoroughly enjoyed hosting this panel with you as we talk
Lani,
about.
are you kicking us off? Is it over?
Is it over? My time flies when you're having fun.
That's right.
I'm getting to my closing remarks, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to have some closing remarks. The president has spoken. She indicated that it's over. So
Yes, Ms. Pemberton.
we are coming to a close, and I sincerely want to thank you from the bottom of my heart of being a part of this panel, because I think it's very important for us to share information and to talk about these subjects so that no one is surprised, so that we all know how to proceed, how to vote, what we need to do. So with that being said, I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds to say one or two things that you might wanted to have said, but you didn't get a chance to say. So we're going to start with Stacy, because she looks ready.
Listen, vote. You have to understand how important your vote is. Russia understands how important your vote is. The Republicans, the Democrats understand your power and exercise it. Vote.
Absolutely. And Kendra?
Have a plan. Ensure that you're planning for yourself, for your family, for your children. Just make sure that you have your mask. Take a few more for others. Pack a snack, but have your plan and get out there.
Yvonne?
Yes, and I would concur, and I would like to say that this is a voting season. So whatever your plan is, work your plan. Just make sure that you vote and make sure other people vote. Don't just think about you. This is when you need to check on your neighbors and make sure your neighbors have voted. And don't assume that everybody you interact with or in your family are registered voters. Ask them if they're registered. If they need some help, reach out. You're going to the polls. Ask them if they need a ride to the polls. Ask them if they need you to mail in to pay the postage for the absentee ballot. Make yourself a committee of one, but get involved at some level, whether you are going to help people that day, become a poll worker, a poll watcher. We need you. Thank you.
Thank you. And so again, thank you, ladies. And we're going to kick it back to our president, Gena Pemberton, for some closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Lani, Yvonne, Stacy, and Kendra. What a great conversation. I thought it was riveting. I learned a bunch. You all are fired up, ready to go. You got me fired up, ready to go. I like that Yvonne is being optimistic, but I'm going to ride on the pessimistic side with Kendra and Stacy. But I really appreciate you all taking the time. Lani, thank you so much for moderating. I couldn't be prouder of you as alumni, as Black women, and as leaders for taking the time today to be a part of this panel. And for everyone that's been watching, to my fellow alumni and guests, take heed to what their final words were. Vote, have a plan, and then also get others to vote as well. I love when Yvonne said, be a committee of one. So now, be that person that harasses people and asks them, are you voting? I don't care who you're voting for. I mean, we might care, but you know what I mean? But let's make sure people get out there and vote. And I think that we've each got to, each one has to take one, is almost what the plan should be. So thank you guys for taking this time. We are going to share this panel out on our Facebook page. If you haven't already, click below. Like our YouTube page and follow along. But thank you again to the ladies for joining. And it felt like I was at my home by the sea, sitting around the kitchen, especially with Stacy and Yvonne acting so ridiculous. Thank you, Kendra, for being professional. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.